All praise to the Most High, and to His Son, Yasha, the Messiah. Hallelujah. This is Brother Holly here with the second Spirit of Truth broadcast here on the High House channel, as well as the House of the High channel on this set apart Shabbat day. First and foremost, as always, I'd like to give all praise and glory to the great I am, He who is, was, and is to come, the Almighty One. Hallelujah. And to His Son, Yasha Messiah, who gave Himself for us that we might have life, and that life is in Him and through Him. Hallelujah. Now, in this second broadcast, we're going to look at the Jubilees or Enochian calendar. Again, there's a teaching on these channels of the true calendar. We're going to look at it again one more time from a bit of a different angle. And one of the reasons that we're doing this again is that there is still no consistency in our ranks, if you will, in the Hebraic faith or in the Hebraic movement on when the feast days are. We got people celebrating feast days all over the place. And the reason that we have this inconsistency is that we're running off of different calendars and different lengths of years. But the book of Jubilees in particular specifies that how long a year is, how many weeks of days a year is, and how many days in particular are in a year, and it never changes. If you were working off a Gregorian calendar, it goes from 365 to 366 in leap years. There's such a thing as leap years, and that's just not biblical. From a Hebraic scriptural standpoint, that every year, no matter what year it is, it's 364 days, or 52 times 7. We know how long a week is because the Most High created in 7 days. And the seventh day was the seventh day. Now, though there are those who are what I like to refer to as lunar Sabbath keepers, and they base what day the Sabbath is based on the phase of the moon. Well, that's just not biblically accurate. For it says in the book of Jubilees, and I'll be reading from the Sefer, it says in the book of Jubilees that if you don't have your calendar being the 364 calendar that it calls for, you will mess up what day the Sabbath is, what day the feast start on, what day is holy, what day is profane. You'll just mess it all up. And that's exactly what we got going on. So I will endeavor in this broadcast to try to bring some clarity from the scriptures on what day we should be, or what calendar we should base these things on. And once we can come to some consistency in that, then we can know, all of us know, what day we should be keeping as a day set apart unto Ahia, and in accordance with his commandments on the feast that he commanded us to keep. And we will also be coming to the unity of the faith. You know, only one time I can find in the New Testament where the Apostle Paul, in whom we all trust, talked about unity. And what he said about unity in effect was that we all speak the same thing, be of one mind and one judgment. And let me help you. I have yet to see all of us speaking the same thing, being of one mind and one judgment. Thus, we don't have the unity that the scriptures call for. So we're going to continue to try to build consensus. We're going to continue to look at these things. And if we have time toward the end of this broadcast, if you will, I want to touch on the Sabbath, the weekly Sabbath being a sign between the Most High, great I am, and the children, the seed of Jacob. It's not for everybody else. And Jubilees, the book of Jubilees, specifies that very clearly. It makes it crystalline clear that it ain't for everybody else. Never was, never will be. We can also glean that from the book of Exodus, but we have those outsiders who can read our writings and say, oh, I'll just keep the Sabbath and I'll just obey this and I'll just do this and I can be counted as the seed. But we already know you got to come from Isaac to be counted as the seed. You got to come from Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob to be accounted for the seed. You have to have promises given to you. And the Most High didn't make these other nations any promises. He only made promises with us, the children of Jacob. All praises. So we're going to be reading from the book of Jubilees, chapter 6. I'll be reading from the Sefer, as I said earlier. And we're going to start reading at verse 30. Jubilees 6 and 30. And all the days of the commandment will be 250 weeks of days. So 2 and 50 is 52 weeks of days. And these will make an entire year complete. Now, if you have a copy of Jubilees, will you please highlight that? A complete year is 52 weeks or 364 days. How do we know that it's 364 days? Well, it's going to tell us in a moment. I'll read verse 30 again. And all the days of the commandment will be 250 weeks of days, and these will make the entire year complete. Thus it is graven and ordained on the heavenly tablets. Now, if you have a copy of the book of Jubilees, you will see this phrase repeated multiple times. The heavenly tablets. Messiah kind of made reference to it, that the word is settled, and Moses did, the Messiah did, and I believe the Apostle Paul did, made reference to the word of how being settled in heaven and in earth. And here it's stating that there's a copy of the commandments of the Torah in heaven that's being referenced multiple times by the writer of Jubilees. I'll read the second part of verse 30, Jubilee 6 and 30, second part. Thus it is engraven and ordained on the heavenly tablets, and there is no neglecting this commandment for a single year or from year to year. And command you, the children of Yasharal, that they observe the years according to this reckoning, 364 days. Will you please highlight that? That a year, 52 weeks, is 364 days. Now, if you divide 364 by 52, you come to 7. For all you lunar Sabbath keepers who base when the Sabbath is based on the moon phase, your theory just got blown up. It says in the Old Covenant, it says in the New Covenant, it says in Jubilees that the Sabbath is the 7th day. But now we have weeks of days being defined as 52 of those being in a complete year and a year being 364 days. So if you divide 364 by 52, you come up with 7. Exactly what the scriptures call for all along. A 7th day Sabbath. Now I'm not throwing rocks at you, lunar Sabbath keepers. Not at all. But we've got to have our unity around truth. We can't be unifying around fables. Though they be cunningly devised, we can't unify around fables. We can only unify around truth. All praises. So let's hear the truth. I'll read it again. Jubilee 6:32. And command you, the children of Yasharal, that they observe the years according to this reckoning, 364 days, and these will constitute a complete year. Now we get that term again repeated. A complete year is 52 weeks or 364 days. And they will not disturb its time for from its days and from its feasts, for everything will fall out in them according to their testimony, and they will not leave out any day nor disturb any feast. So if we stick to the 364-day calendar, the 52-week calendar, we won't mess up any days, we won't mess up any feasts, and everything will fall out exactly how it should. I'll read that again. The second part of Jubilees 6:32. And they will not disturb its time from its days and from its feasts, for everything will fall out in them according to their testimony, and they will not leave out any day nor disturb any feast. Verse 33. But if any do neglect and do not observe them according to his commandment, then they will disturb all their seasons, and the years will be dislodged from this order. And they will disturb the seasons, and the years will be dislodged, and they will neglect their ordinances. So what happens when you don't pay attention to the 364, 52 week a year calendar? What happens? Everything gets out of whack. And you get to a point where you're not observing the feast anymore. I'll read it again. But if they do neglect and do not observe them according to his commandment, then they will disturb all their seasons, and the years will be dislodged from this order, and they will disturb the seasons, and the years will be dislodged, and they will neglect their ordinances. And all the children of Yasharal will forget and will not find the path of the years, and will forget the new moons and seasons and Sabbaths. So when you get these things out of whack, when you get off the 364 calendar, when you get off 52 weeks being a year, when you get off 7 days being a week, for the math to work, that's how it has to be. A week must be 7 days long. A year is 52 weeks, and a year is 364 days. Anything else, you'll forget. You won't keep the ordinances. And it says clearly that the children of Jacob will forget the new moons. They will forget the Sabbaths. They'll forget everything. Let's read it again. Jubilees 6:34. And all the children of Yasharal will forget and will not find the path of the years, and will forget the new moons and seasons and Sabbaths, and they will go wrong as to all the order of the years. So we'll be in error. Why? Why we're in error? Because we're not following the prescribed calendar from the scriptures. A lot of the people within the Hebraic movement don't even acknowledge the book of Jubilees as being scripture. But as I've studied it, I have found nothing in it that is in disagreement with the rest of the text found other places. Matter of fact, certain things found here within Jubilees, this is the second witness. Like where it says in 1 John about Eve looking upon the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil and seeing it was pleasing to her eye. It says the same thing in the book of Jubilees, talking about that same event. Doesn't say that in Genesis, talking about the same event. But it says in Jubilees that phrase. Let's continue. Jubilees 6:35. For I know, and from henceforth will I declare it unto you, and it is not of my own devising, for the Sefer lies written before me, and on the heavenly tablets the division of days is ordained, lest they forget the feast of the covenant, and walk according to the feast of the other nations after their error and after their ignorance. So when we start keeping the feast of other nations, when we neglect our own calendar, when we neglect our own feast, when we neglect our own Most High Allah Hayim, and what's recorded in heaven, will fall prey to following after the feast and the error and the ignorance of the other nations on the planet. There's a teaching on these channels say the mixed multitude always cause you to sin. Is that not the truth? Always following after these heathens will cause you to live and walk in error. I'll read it again. Jubilees 6:35. For I know, and from henceforth I will declare it unto you, and it is not of my own devising. For the Sefer lies written before me, and on the heavenly tablets the division of days is ordained, lest they forget the feast of the covenant, and walk according to the feast of the other nations, after their error and after their ignorance. For there will be those who will assuredly make observations of the moon, how it disturbs the season and comes in from year to year 10 days too soon. Will you highlight that? Here in the book, no wonder the lunar Sabbath Hebrews and others throw out Jubilees. It talks about them right here. You are they who observe the moon, how it changes shape and comes in different days year to year. And you'll be working on a calendar 10 days short. Is that not the case with the Jewish people? You know what I'm talking about. The ones with the hexagram on their flag. The current interlopers in the land of Canaan, in the promised land, in the land of Yasharal. The ones that are there now. They've been there since 1948. Hadn't had a moment's peace. Those people. You know the ones that worship a wall. The Bible full of wall. Full of wall. I can't wait for it to fall down and smush them. It's their idol. They're a bunch of idolaters pretending to be us. So the days of their pretense are coming to an end. All praises. Jerusalem will not be trodden down by Gentiles forever. All praises. And the true children of Jacob will be regathered from the four corners of the earth and put back in the land, so saith Yahweh, in the Holy Scriptures. All praises. So, let's continue. They're the same ones that 354-day calendar. But let's read that again. For there will be those who will assuredly, this is Jubilee 6:36. For there will be those who will assuredly make observations of the moon, how it disturbs the seasons and comes in from year to year 10 days too soon. For this reason, the years will come upon them when they will disturb the order and make an abominable day the day of testimony. See, they'll be keeping an abominable day instead of the true day. And an unclean day, a feast day, and they will confound all the days, the holy with the unclean, and the unclean day with the holy, for they will go wrong as to the months and Sabbaths and feasts and jubilees. Will you please highlight that? They will go wrong. They'll be calling the weekly Sabbath on a Tuesday, or saying it depends on the year when the weekly Sabbath is, what day of the week, or day of the observed week it is. We know it's the seventh day. And we know on every calendar that you can get your hands on, the seventh day is the seventh day. It doesn't change from week to week, month to month, year to year. It's always going to be the seventh day. It always was the seventh day, and it always will be the seventh day. If you go by the lunar, if you go by the moon, You'll come up with a calendar for a year, 10 days short, and everything will be off. You'll call an abominable day, an unclean day, holy. You won't keep Sabbath. You'll be breaking it. I'll read verse 37 again. For this reason the years will come upon them when they will disturb the order and make an abominable day the day of testimony, and an unclean day a feast day, and they will confound all the days, the holy with the unclean, and the unclean day with the holy, and they shall go wrong as to the months and Sabbaths and feasts and jubilees. And here is a great bit of scripture to pull out for all those Constantine Christians that say, well, every day. I serve the Lord every day. Nobody telling you can't. But there are days in which he requires you to maintain, and days for you are required to be observed and be holy. Like the Sabbath. I ain't met one yet that keep the Sabbath holy. Not one. I wish I could just meet one that wasn't seeking their own pleasure, speaking their own words, or doing their own work on the Most High 7-day Sabbath. Some of them are right now out there playing golf, or sailing, or fishing, or hunt, doing whatever. Hunt, fish, shopping, doing whatever they feel like. And tomorrow, on an unclean day, they'll be trying to make that day holy. You can't make this up. The Most High sanctified the 7th day. He didn't sanctify the first day of the week. And I'm going to say something here that might disturb you, Constantine Christians. But there is no record in the scriptures that the Messiah was raised on the first day of the week. It is clear from a reading of the Gospels that they came looking for the Messiah. They came to anoint his body on the first day of the week. And the angel that was sitting at the open tomb said, he is not here. If they came on the first day of the week looking for his body, and his body wasn't there, when did it leave? Prior to the first day of the week. Hello. Well, with the highest kind permission, and if it is his will, I will do a special teaching on that particular subject in the coming weeks. If Yahweh wills it to be so, I live, and his son Terry. Because we have to put a stop to this. This has kept more people, sincere people, out of the kingdom. Because you've been sincerely wrong based on a misunderstanding that was given to you. You didn't read it. Nowhere does it say he was raised on the first day. Matter of fact, it alludes to he wasn't even there on the first day. Wow. Back to the Jubilees chapter 6. Jubilees 6 and 38. For this reason I command and testify to you, that you may testify to them being who? The children of Jacob. For after your death your children will disturb them, so that they will not make the year 364 days only, and for this reason they will go wrong as to the new moons and seasons and Sabbaths and feasts, and they will eat all kinds of blood with all kinds of flesh. Will you please highlight that too? Not only will, if you depart from the 364-day calendar, you'll just start breaking other laws. You can't keep these. You'll just start breaking everything. And it comes down to the dietary laws. See, there were dietary laws not just mentioned in Leviticus and Deuteronomy. No, they were talked about here. You're forbidden to eat all kinds of flesh. and eat blood here. And does this not make sense that when the so-called Gentiles were brought back into the faith in the book of Acts, that they were reminded not to eat blood? That seems kind of like an odd thing to tell somebody, that you can't eat blood. Well, them being children of Jacob through birth, and they had been cut off from their heritage, they had departed outside of the nation of Yasharal. They were the uncircumcised, the uncircumcised by the circumcision. They were unclean Gentiles living outside of Yasharal, the land of Yasharal, following after the heathenistic customs, and they were being brought back into the faith. And when you go to the book of Acts and read that account of where the apostles gave this writ to the new converts being brought back into the Hebraic faith, it was a very interesting clause put at the end of that. It said, "For Moses has those that read him in the synagogue every Sabbath." So they were encouraging them and commanding them to keep the Sabbath by going to synagogue. Wow. You missed it. You just missed it. It says it clearly. Then what were they going to hear when they go into the synagogue on the Sabbath? The very thing that we talked about in the first broadcast that Paul heard when he went to the synagogue on the Sabbath. A reading from Torah and the prophets. And these things were only for the children of Jacob. We read that in Romans 9 in the first broadcast. That Torah was only for the children of Jacob. We're going to see in a moment that the Sabbath, the weekly Sabbath, is only for the children of Jacob. It says it clearly here in the book of Jubilees, and it says it's a sign unto the children of Jacob here in the book of Jubilees, and in Exodus it says it clearly that's a sign to the children of Yasharal. So that'll be the second witness to the Sabbath, the seventh day weekly Sabbath, being something for Yasharal only. It was never for the heathen nations. It wasn't intended to be for the heathen nations. It's always been for his covenant people, the children of Jacob. All praises. Well, let's see it. You talked about it. Let's be about it. Jubilees chapter 2. And this is a long read. And thank you for bearing with me this long. We're almost at 30 minutes. So I'll try to be as brief as possible. But I want to read this into your hearing. So I'll fight the temptation to give too much explanation so we can get through this in good time. All praises. Jubilees 2:18. And he gave us a great sign, the Sabbath, that we should work 6 days, but guard the Sabbath on the seventh day from all work. And all the angels of his presence and all the angels of sanctification, these two great classes, he has bidden us to guard the Sabbath with him in heaven and on earth. And he said unto us, this Jubilees 2:20. And he said unto us, Behold, I will separate unto myself a people from among all the peoples, and they shall guard the Sabbath, and I will sanctify them unto myself as my people, and I will bless them, and as I have sanctified the Sabbath, do sanctify it unto myself, even so will I bless them, and they shall be my people, and I will be their Elohim. I'm fighting the temptation, but it's pretty clear. A separate people out from amongst other people. He's going to let you know who these separate people are. I'm going to read that one more time. Jubilees 2:20. And he said unto us, Behold, I will separate unto myself a people from among all the people, and these shall guard the Sabbath. And I will sanctify them unto myself as my people, and I will bless them, as I have sanctified the Sabbath, and do sanctify it unto myself, even so will I bless them, and they shall be my people, and I will be the Elohim. And I have chosen the seed of Jacob from amongst all that I have seen, and have written him down as my firstborn son, and have sanctified him unto myself forever and ever. And I will teach them the Sabbath, that they may guard the Sabbath thereon from all work. Highlight, please. Liberally, please. Highlight, underline. Who did he separate from all people? He said so. I'll read it one more time. Who he chose. Jubilees 2:21. And I have chosen the seed of Jacob from amongst all that I have seen, and have written him down as my firstborn son, and have sanctified him unto myself forever and ever. And I will teach them the Sabbath, that they may guard the Sabbath thereunto from all work. And thus he created therein a sign, in accordance with which they should guard the Sabbath with us on the seventh day. Lunar Sabbath people, listen up. When's the Sabbath? The seventh day. To eat and to drink, and to bless him who has created all things, as he has blessed and sanctified unto himself a peculiar people above all peoples, that they should guard the Sabbath together with us. So he separated a peculiar people from all people. He didn't separate all people as being peculiar. It's the other way around. Let's keep it straight. If the Sabbath is for you, his people, period. You're the seed of Jacob if the Sabbath's for you, period. I was 7 years old, asking my mama why we don't keep the Sabbath. I couldn't even spell Sabbath. I asked her plain as day why we don't keep the Sabbath. She had no good answer for me. I wanted to know. Now, was I being talked to by some, alphabet campers? Oh, it wasn't even such a thing as the alphabet camps. The Hebrew Yasharalites. There wasn't no such thing as them. There wasn't no such thing as YouTube or smartphones or CDs. I'm back in the LP days. See, Brother Holler almost 60 years old. I was 7. I was a little shade, barely could read. Asked my mom why we don't keep the Sabbath. It was in my heart. The new covenant was in my heart. Why was it in your heart, Brother Holly? Because it's in the heart of every Hebrew. It's in the heart of everyone who's of the seed of Jacob. If either you're from the house of Yasharal or from the house of Judah, it matters not. If you are a son of the 12 tribes, it is in your heart and in your seed's heart. That's the new covenant. It's only with the house of Yasharal and the house of Judah. It ain't with nobody else. To have his laws written in your heart. We're reading his law. That's set aside for one group of people on the planet. Above all people. I'll read it again. Thus he created therein a sign. Jubilees 2:22. A sign in accordance with which they should guard the Sabbath with us on the seventh day, to eat and to drink, and to bless him who created all things, as he has blessed and sanctified unto himself a peculiar people above all peoples, and that they should guard the Sabbath together with us. And he caused his commands to ascend as a sweet savor, acceptable before him all the days. Therefore there were 22 heads of mankind from Adam to Jacob, and 22 kinds of work were made until the seventh day. This is blessed and holy, and the former also is blessed and holy. And this one serves with the one that is for sanctification and blessing. And to this Jacob and his seed it was granted that they should always be the blessed and the saints. Will you please highlight that? Who are the blessed and who are the saints? Saints being set apart ones, or the Kodeshim in Hebrew. Who are they? Jubilees chapter 2, verse 25. No wonder the Constantinas don't want you reading Jubilees. No wonder the alphabet camps don't read Jubilees. You break all their theories up. And to this Jacob, Jubilees 22 and 25, 2 and 25, and to this Jacob and his seed it was granted that they should always be the blessed and Kodeshim. For the first testimony and Torah, even as he hath sanctified and blessed the Sabbath on the seventh day. He created heaven and earth and everything that he created in 6 days. And Elohim made the seventh day holy. One more time, lunar Sabbath keepers. And Elohim made the seventh day holy for all his works, wherefore he commanded on its behalf that whosoever does any work thereupon shall die, and that he who defiles it shall surely die. Wherefore do you command the children of Yasharal to observe this day, that they may keep it holy, and not do thereon any work, and not to defile it, as it is holier than all other days. So when you're talking to these Constantine, that every day is the same. No, it says right here, Jubilees chapter 2, that the Sabbath is holier than all other days. Verse 28, 2 and 28. And whosoever profanes it shall surely die, and whosoever does thereon any work shall surely die eternally. And that the children of Yasharal may observe this day throughout their generations, and do not be rooted out of the land, for it is a holy day and a blessed day. And everyone who observes it and guards Sabbath thereon from all his work will be holy and blessed throughout all the days like unto us. Does it say whosoever? It says everyone that observes. Everyone of who? Who it was given to keep? Who was it given to, the Sabbath, to keep holy? The children of Jacob. So every one of them, or every one of us, however you want to phrase it, are the ones who are blessed and sanctified by keeping it. I'll read that again. And everyone who observes it, Jubilees 2 and 29, and everyone who observes it and guards Sabbath thereon from all his work will be holy and blessed throughout all days like unto us. Declare I and say to the children of Yasharal, the Torah of this day, both that they should guard the Sabbath thereon, that they should not forsake it in the error of their hearts, and that it is against the Torah to do any work thereon, which is unseemly to do thereon their own pleasure, and that they should not partake thereon anything to be eaten or drunk, or that is against the Torah to draw water, or to bring in or take out thereon through their gates any burden which they had not prepared for themselves on the 6th day in their dwellings. I know that's a mouthful. But basically, if you didn't put it together on the preparation day, the 6th day, you're just going to be without it on the Sabbath. That's just all there is to it. I make sure that me and my son that lives with me here, we have food for the 6th day. I make breakfast on Friday afternoon, before sundown. So we have something to eat in the morning on the 6th day, on the 7th day. on the Sabbath. We always get something to eat for lunch and dinner on the 6th day for the 7th day. Because you're not to be going out there looking on the 7th day for something to eat or to drink or taking the trash out. You do that on the 6th day for the 7th day. You don't do any work on the 7th day, especially that which is unseemly. Jubilees 2:31, and they shall not bring in nor take out from house to house on that day, for that day is more holy and blessed than any Jubilee day of the Jubilees. On this we kept Sabbath in the heavens before it was made known to any flesh to guard the Sabbath there on the earth. And the Creator of all things blessed it. But he did not sanctify all people and nations to guard the Sabbath thereon. This is Jubilees 2:32. I'll start over and read it again. And the Creator of all things blessed it, but he did not sanctify all peoples and nations to guard the Sabbath thereon, but Yasharal alone. Will you highlight that? Alone. Highlight that. By themselves or by ourselves. It ain't for everybody. It's for us. Them alone he permitted to eat and drink and guard the Sabbath thereon on the earth. So, all the people group on the earth, whatever people group you like, whoever you want to talk about, your favorite people group, or the people group you might belong to. If you're not a blood and bone child of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, it ain't for you. The Sabbath ain't for you. These covenants ain't for you. The promises ain't for you. The law ain't for you. The Messiah ain't for you. It's just not. We can't make this up. Everything keeps saying it ain't for you. Stop trying to appropriate our stuff, man. Just live your life. You've seen our life. It ain't no picnic. I'm just thankful I'm one of the children. I'm just thankful these things are for me. And for and for the seed after me. All praises. And the Creator of all things blessed it, Jubilees 2:32. But he did not sanctify all peoples and nations to guard the Sabbath thereon, but Yasharal alone. Them alone he permitted to eat and drink and to guard the Sabbath thereupon on the earth. And the Creator of all things blessed this day which he created for blessing and holiness and glory above all days. Again, this Torah and testimony was given to the children of Yasharal as a Torah forever unto their generations. Now we're going to read in Exodus where it is a sign. The Sabbath is a sign between the Most High and us, the children of Jacob. Exodus 30, I'm reading from the Yasharal scriptures. Exodus 31, starting verse 13, says, Speak thou unto the children of Yasharal, saying, Verily, my Sabbath you shall keep, for it is a sign between me and you throughout your generations, that ye may know that I am Ahia that doth sanctify you, or set you apart. The very sentiment being told in Jubilees chapter 2. It almost uses the same phraseology. Remember I said earlier in this broadcast that Jubilees doesn't disagree with the rest of the Hebraic scriptures, but some of the same things are being brought out only in Jubilees, and that you can cross-reference them back to the scriptures. Yeah. I give the book of Jubilees more credence than I do the Gospel of John. We talked about that earlier in an earlier broadcast. How I'm a little suspect of the Gospel of John on this point and this point alone, that a lot of the things in the Gospel of John can't be independently verified through being mentioned somewhere else. The marriage supper of Cana, the conversation with Nicodemus, Nobody else talks about it. They ain't got, where's the second and third witness? I don't know. You got them, man. Put them in the comment section. I'll read it. Like I said, man, I'm almost ready to put the Gospel of John in a box. But the Book of Jubilees is good, man. I'm gonna keep reading it. If I find something wrong with it, I'll let y'all know. But I ain't found nothing yet. Exodus chapter 31, verse 13 again. Speak thou unto the children of Yasharal, saying, verily, my Sabbath you shall keep, for it is a sign between me and you throughout your generations, that you may know that I am a high that doth sanctify you. You shall keep my Sabbaths thereon, for it is holy unto you. Every one that defiles it shall surely be put to death. For whosoever does any work therein, that soul shall be cut off from among his people. 6 days may work be done, but in the seventh is the Sabbath of rest, holy to Ahiah. Whosoever does any work in the Sabbath day, shall surely be put to death. Wherefore the children of Yasharal shall keep the Sabbath to observe the Sabbath through their generations for a perpetual covenant. The Sabbath keeping, what we're doing right now today, is a perpetual covenant. Perpetual means it goes on and on and on for us, the children of Yasharal. Oh, praise. I read that verse 16 again. Exodus 31:16. Wherefore the children of Yasharal shall keep the Sabbath to observe the Sabbath throughout their generations for a perpetual covenant. It is a sign, verse 17. It is a sign between me and the children of Yasharal forever. Will you highlight that? It's a sign between the Most High and his people, the children of Yasharal, who he called alone, who he chose alone, who he picked alone from everybody else. He just picked one. It is a sign between me and the children of Yasharal forever. For in 6 days Ahiah made heaven and the earth, and on the seventh day he rested and was refreshed. And he gave unto Moses, when he made an end of communing with him upon Mount Sinai, 2 tables of testimony, tables of stone, written with the finger of Elohim. But we also know that these tables are in heaven, don't we? How do we know that, Brother Holly? Well, that's what the Book of Jubilees says, speaking on the same subject. What's in heaven being kept is what's supposed to be kept on the earth. So let's recap briefly. I'm seeing all kinds of, oh boy. My camera just went out, y'all, so bear with me. My internet's disconnected, so bear with me. Let's recap briefly that the Sabbath was set apart for the children of Yasharal, the children of Yasharal only, and that we and we alone were chosen by Ahiah to keep the Sabbath and to walk in all his covenant. All praise to the Most High, Ahiah, and his son Yashah, the Messiah. Hallelujah.